Hello and welcome to another macro video. We've got a couple of new macros today and some old ones to remind you of in case they're of interest, and you can go and investigate them. So the subject is some more on the lines of analysing what's going on in a file, so looking for inconsistencies and diagnosis of formatting and punctuation and so on. So we've got two new macros and some old ones. We first want to give you a couple of general principles. Particularly with the analysis macros, you can make life easier if you run copy text with some features first. That does a copy of the document, but it also makes sure it includes anything that's in footnotes or endnotes and in text boxes, and it removes some of the table formatting, and if there's any corruption in the file, then that goes as well. So it gives you a nice clean file, because some of these analysis macros are quite complicated, and so it's helpful to be able to have a clean file to work on. Right, so let's get started. The second general principle: if you try some of my macros and they don't quite achieve what you want, what should you do? Well, should you just keep quiet and say, oh well, Paul gives them to me free of charge, I can't bother him? No, don't do that. Please tell me, because if I improve a macro for you, if you say you want it to do something extra or do it in a different way, then I might well be improving it for me too, so I gain. So please don't be afraid. And in any case, I'm an obsessive compulsive problem solver, so if you give me a problem, I love to solve it. You're feeding my habit, and you've got my email address there, so you can drop me a line. So today's two new macros. First of all, we've got the style effect detector, and the idea there is that if you have a file like this one, it's got all sorts of different formatting in there, and you can't quite see whether it's a style or what it is. So if you select a bit of the text and run the macro style effect detector, it tells you about it. It tells you that that's heading style 2, and that the color is 6, and that 6 is that color is part of the style, and it's bold, and that's part of the style as well. It says continue, and the idea there is if you well, obviously you can cancel. If we try another bit here and try that one, so there you've got heading style 2, but the color 2 has been added, and it says mixed bold, which means that some of it's bold and some of it's not. So anyway, I've got three options. To cancel comes out, yes to continue. What it does, it goes to the end and then it goes along one character at a time, so you can look carefully. So there it's saying that bold has been removed from the style, and it's asking do you want to continue. When you get to that one, it's back to the bold again. You've seen already, I suppose, where it says mixed italic, so that's okay. If you try that one, you've got mixed italic and mixed size as well. So if I go no on there, it goes backwards through the so yes goes forwards. So you're there on the different sizes and the different italics, and no, as I say, goes backwards there. These two bits of highlighting look the same, but if I go into there and run it, then that's actually a shaded background. This is what you would normally expect to see, which is highlight color 3. So that's a shaded background, and this one over here, that's shaded foreground and also a texture shading. So you might meet those occasionally and wonder what the heck's going on. Well, this macro will show you. And well, it also does superscript there. Not terribly exciting. Okay, so that's that one. what's next? Repeated words in sentences. Right, okay, so this is where someone is saying that they want to be alerted as they're reading the text in case they've got a word that is repeated in a sentence. Okay, some words need to be repeated, but sometimes the reader can see it as repetition if they're using the same word, and you might want to change it to an alternative word just to avoid repetition. So this is just going to show you what's there. So if you run it, it starts from the cursor and goes down, and I'll stop it there just so that's far enough. Let's just end that. So you can see it's so dummy dummy, macro macro, line line. So it's covered the same things where the word is repeated, and you've got different colours there, which I thought might be helpful. But if you prefer, let's just run it again and stop it and say debug, so we can go into the edit mode. At the beginning of the macro there, you've got the different colours that it will use. And it will do either highlighting or it will do font colouring, and you can set that up here. So we can change it to font colour, sort of use highlight equals false and then use colour equals true. So swap those around, and I find the highlighting is a bit too much in your face, so I prefer to use colour. Use many colours equals true. If I make that false, then if I run it now, then I'm going to stop it again. We can just stop it with that. So we've said don't use many colours, so it's just using the one colour, so it's just using yellow, and the colours are set here, so that's the first of those colours. So if I change that round, make that true and that false, and then run it again, so now we've got just the one colour. That's me pink. I like me pink. So colour pink there, or multiple colours. Right, so let's reload this one. So I've got this one back again, but unadulterated. Right, so we've got some existing macros to look at. There's one called accentalize, which is going to alert you where words sometimes occur with one accent and sometimes with a different accent or no accent. But this analysis macro is different from the others in that you don't just start with the file and then run it on the file of your text. You actually have to run a text, a word frequency application first, and that would have to be something like text stat. I use one from my old Acorn days, but what you will have to start with is a word list like this, and so that has been created by this program, and it's telling you how many times each particular word occurs. So if you run the macro, which is accentalize, then it goes through that list and compares them with and without the accents, and then it will end up with a list. Right, now I had to cheat there, I had to stop, and it's a good learning point. As I was talking to you and the macro was running, I was moving the cursor around over these two files here. And what happened was the macro changed its focus to the other file, and therefore it stumbled and gave the wrong answers. So that's a good point to make when you run some of these macros. Push the cursor out of the way, take your hands off the table, don't touch the mouse, and let the macro get on with its analysis without interference. So what we've got here is all the words where where the two versions are similar but have either different accents or no accents at all. Okay, and the next one is accent word collector, and I can run that on this file. So that does work on the whole of the text. So that's accent word collector. There we go. So it goes through the whole of the document and it looks at all the words there and tries to find words that have accents in them, and it does produce some false positives, but I don't think that matters terribly as long as it does give you that list of accented words. So there's all these funny characters, but then you have the words which do actually have accents in them, and you recognise those from the list we just did. Okay, so after that we've got we talked about duplicated words. This is a slightly different one. Duplicated words highlight. This is where words in the text are duplicated one after the other. I don't know whether you've noticed in this sentence here we've got the and the. So we've got duplicated the, we've got the. And so that's what the macro did. However, there's no need for the macro now. That's actually redundant because you can do it with Fredit. So if you look in the Fredit library, there's a section which says duplicated words, and so by using wildcard find and replace, you can actually find occurrences or things like the. It doesn't have to be the. It's any two words that are repeated, and then there's another version which does two words, so like he said, and it doesn't matter about the punctuation. Sorry about that, it's Zach, my grandson, arriving, my 2-year-old grandson. So today's Zach Day, so I mustn't be long now. Got the day to play with Zach. Okay, so where were we? Oh yes, the Fredit library giving you how to do those wildcard searches. 1 word, 2 words or 3 words. Right, font lister. So the idea here is that it will find out what fonts occur in the document, which is quite interesting because when I ran it, it told me that I'd got a font that I'd never even heard of in my book. So we can try it, can't we? So font lister, F-O-N-T, font lister, run, and so it's given me a list there of, it was this one here, inherit. So I thought, well, what the heck is that? So if you do font find, which I've got on key 5, so it's this here at the video telling you in my book where the videos on YouTube are. For some reason or other that's got the font inherit. I just wonder whether that's come from the YouTube website, that I've copied that from the YouTube site and put it in my book, but I haven't realised that I brought the font with it. So anyway, it tells you what all the different fonts are, and font find obviously takes you from this list down to any of the the first occurrence of that particular font. Then there are various here. I can't honestly remember what they all were, but it's to do with getting rid of fonts that you don't want. There are extraneous fonts in there, or highlighting them or clearing them. I can't quite remember what they all were, but if you're needing to play around with fonts, as you've got a file that's got all sorts of random fonts in it, then you could have a look through those and find out what they are and what they do. Some more sort of analysis type ones, if you're concerned about questions in your document and you want to highlight all the questions, there's that one. If you want to, if you've got rather long words, that in quote long quoted words, in other words, someone is saying that the quotes longer than a certain amount ought to be displayed and not in quotes. Therefore, you want to highlight those, and that's what those are for. Long sentence check, just if you've got a lot of long sentences generally, so this will highlight the longest sentences so that you can look at them and see if they need splitting. Um, I can't remember why they're different, but again you can have a look in the book and see what's what. More stuff about font size, highlight all the text that is not in the same size as the current text, so you can just click in some 16-point text to find out which bits are not 16-point. Odd punctuation, yes, this is if I give an example, where are we? Yes, it's this sort of thing where you've got do you want the head word do you want the head word separated by a colon in the same style, i.e. bold, or not, or should it be Roman? And it's another of these things of consistency. If you can get this shown quickly and easily, I think it's Roman punctuation highlight. No, it turns out that it's highlight odd punctuation format, so let's try that. So highlight odd punctuation format. So it goes through the whole document and finds where the punctuation going across words is different. So that one's found, it's highlighted that because it's in bold. And if we look at the we got it here, no we haven't got it there. Let's find highlight odd edit. So the sorts of things it's looking for is whether the colons are bold or italic, and the commas, changes of font size. It looks for all sorts of different changes there, and these other two, punctuation format checker and punctuation highlight, again do similar sort of things. So let's have a look at the first one, PU, punctuation format checker, edit. So there you're looking at whether you've got bold colons, Roman, and there's all sorts of things that you can highlight with this, and similarly with the punctuation highlighter. So it's again the sorts of things where you're looking at the punctuation and trying to get consistency as to whether things, whether the italic or the bold or the brackets or the whatever are in different formats. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thanks for watching.